don't make this fatal mistake when it comes to leveling up your horses in Wishblossom Ranch. Hi, I'm Tanny Games, and today we are going to be going over the best ways to level up your horsey friends. So Wishblossom Ranch brings with it a lot of new horses, not only our own customizable horse, however we do get the addition of Khan, Pegasus and Maximus, as well as if you buy the deluxe edition you do get Sven from Frozen. So these horses are kind of like the forefront of the Wishblossom Ranch game. They are what you need to progress through the story. And in today's video, I'm going to go over the best way to level them up. It's going to be the best way to kind of level them up authentically, let's just say. There is a hack supposedly about how to level them up. However, for anyone who doesn't want to cheese it, this is kind of the guide for you. I am going to put the kind of like cheese it method at the end, just so we're covering all bases. However, I know some people like to take their time with the DLC. Some people like to spread it out, and that's totally okay if you want to do that, just like it's totally okay if you want to speedrun it. However you want to play the DLC is entirely your choice. So we are going to cover both bases in this video, but I am going to start with the more natural kind of way, which will go over what you shouldn't do so you don't make the mistake that I did yesterday, which I wholly regret, because otherwise we would have progressed further with our stream. But yeah, let's get into it. So I'm going to talk about the best way to progress the friendship in terms of the biggest boost you can give. And the best thing you can do is pet, feed and brush your horsey friends. So we're going to do that right now with Maximus. We are going to give him his pets, we're going to groom him, and then we're going to give him his favorite meals of the day. Now, this is by far the best thing you can do in terms of leveling up. It gives the biggest boost. However, it only applies once per day. So basically, the first time you've done it gives the biggest boost, and then the subsequent times when you brush and pet and things like that, it gives a much smaller boost. So I do recommend, as I said, if you are slow playing it, make sure each day you come over, you pet, you brush, and you feed. Now, the horses will have 3 favorite things of the day that you can feed them, and you need to feed them all 3. And when you feed them all 3, you actually get a special horsey bonus as well. So we're going to do that here with Maximus. We're going to give him his favorite foods, and then we'll get into that special bonus as well. Oh, look, I've already leveled him up to level 4. Here we go. Okay, I'll get into this now whilst it's on the screen. Now, when it comes to leveling up your horsey friends, there are a few abilities you can do. There's water crops, there's digging, removing night fawns, harvesting, and mining. Now, for Maximus, I did give him mining, which is by far the best choice to make out of all these valley abilities in terms of leveling up. And I'm going to go through why. Now, if you pick water crops, digging or harvesting, they all suffer from the same issue, which is that the animation is incredibly slow when it comes to doing these actions of digging and harvesting and stuff like that. And also, when you're at the lower levels, the amount that you can harvest or the amount that you dig is very small. So when you're harvesting, you literally only harvest 3 crops. 3 crops in total, which is not a big area. So if you remember in the teasers for the showcase when they did the little preview, when Maximus or the horses that they use were doing these activities, they were covering a larger space. When they were digging holes, they were digging like 3x3 squares or something like that. At the lower levels, you don't have that. the amount that you harvest and things like that is significantly lower. So bear that in mind, that if you choose the water crops, the digging and harvesting, it is very, very slow because of that slower animation and because of the limited amount that it covers. In fact, harvesting with a horse, I would argue it is much slower to harvest 3 crops with a horse than it is to harvest 3 crops manually by yourself. So I just want to kind of stress that I don't recommend those. Now, the next thing is removing night fawns, which probably wouldn't be too bad in itself. However, you do get a limited amount of night fawn spawn a day. So once you've done that, you can't progress with that skill anymore. So it is kind of limiting. So the reason I recommend mining is because the animation is significantly smoother when it comes to mining. You do have to spam press a few times, you know, you have to press E for each individual hit rather than kind of like holding it down or things like that. However, the animation on the mining is significantly smoother, is significantly faster, I find. Not only that, but in this new DLC, you're going to be grinding for resources anyway. Especially if you want to unlock the new crafting recipes, which do require a lot of things like pyrite, silver ore, and things like that. So mining is actually going to be something you're going to want to be doing quite consistently in the early days. Therefore, mining is by far the best skill to unlock, first of all, for your horsey companion. So I recommend whatever you do for the first skill that you can choose, always pick mining, because the loop of going in circles and mining each dig spot, the fact that you're going to want to get these resources anyway, it is just more consistent. Night fawns is limited by how many spawn a day. Harvesting, digging, watering crops is far too slow. It is not fast enough to use. Also, if it rains in your valley a lot, the watering crops is going to be pointless. What crops are you watering when it's raining? You're not. So I recommend doing mining as your first thing. I unfortunately on Khan yesterday assigned harvesting, and it was a hellish grind in stream yesterday. So I do recommend going for mining as the first ability, and then whatever you do afterwards is irrelevant. So long as you have that mining ability, the rest is just whatever you want to do. So you can pick whatever. I just recommend always for that first ability, go mining. And now I'm going to give Maximus his last favourite thing of the day, which is the beetroot. So we are going to feed him here, and you'll see he's gained these gold sparkles around him. Now, if I press the B button, oh wait, I need to be on my horse. Hold on. Here we go. I'm on my horse. So this is Horse Glow, and this grants bonus stats while riding this horse. So I would recommend that as you are progressing with your horses and stuff like that, as you feed them during the day and things like that, I would recommend, oh gosh, sorry. I don't know what happened with my camera there. Once you've done this, this is when you can then grind out. So if you've got certain abilities that your horse can do and things like that, if you've got activities of the day, if you're doing like daily grinding, things like that, you are going to want to do that after you've got your horsey glow. So first thing of the day, do this with one of the horses. Use up their horse glow. Once the horse glow is finished, then you can actually progress on to the next horse and do the same routine, whereby you feed them, you groom them, you pet them, and then you get their next horse glow as well. So that's what I recommend in terms of that slow build progression. If you are trying to progress through the storyline naturally, rather than kind of like cheesing it and stuff like that, which, as I said, there's nothing wrong with cheesing it. There's nothing wrong with speedrunning the DLC. Just like equally, there's nothing wrong with taking your time and having patience. However you want to do it, you have that choice. Now, the next thing we're going to go over is the kind of like the hack method to leveling up your horse. So in order to do that, we're going to go to a floating island. Okay, so I'm on the floating island here, and this is basically the setup you need. You need to take a fence, you need to angle it into the corner and then you just hold down the gallop button. As a side note for this hack, I did actually see this setup from Cupcake is Gaming. However, she gives credit to Mr. Star, and Mr. Star was the person who was mentioned in my chat yesterday when we were streaming about the hack. Now, I couldn't get his initial setup to work. I believe I was setting it up wrong. But this setup with the angled into the corner is working a lot better for me. So yeah, just a little heads up there. Now, I don't particularly like this because holding down the shift button and the forward button is quite uncomfortable for me. It's something that I've never been good at with keyboard and mouse gaming. Is holding down that shift with like WASD. I struggle with it. It's very uncomfortable for my fingers. But this is basically what you need to do. You just hold the button, and because the horse is trying to gallop over the fence, he is basically earning that gallop ability. Now, it is only 1 star, so technically the progression with this is significantly less than doing those grooming, petting kind of things that you do in the morning. So technically this doesn't earn you as much XP. However, the way you can spam this is basically how you cheese it. So I'm going to keep going here, and we're just going to see if we can get Maximus to the next level. I'm going to keep an eye on the time. I should have checked if he was at the lowest level. I don't think he was. But I'm just going to see how long this takes me to level him up. Okay, and here we are. It is officially 8 minutes later. So obviously, like I said, I don't know how far progressed I was into level 4. Not very far, because obviously we only did a couple of mining things and stuff like that. So about 8-9 minutes, perhaps 10 max of grinding to go up a level. Now, I assume the horses' friendships are going to be a lot like the human friendships, let's just say. The character friendships, whereby the further you progress in levels, the bigger the jump in XP. So, for instance, when it comes to leveling up from level 2 to 3, apparently that, I do believe that should be shorter than the jump from 8 to 9, for instance. That was killer on my fingers. However, if you do want to cheese it, I guess this is the method for you. About 10 minutes to go up a level, roughly. So, yeah, and then we can pick a new ability for our horse, and there we go. So here we are, auto ability there for the horse watering. So that's how you do it. That's how you level up your horse, both in the kind of slower, more natural way, the tips that you should do for that, and then also the cheese it method if you kind of want to shortcut it and just spam it and things like that. That's how you do it. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little video on the horses, kind of going over that. I love the horsey additions to the game. I think they're absolutely fantastic. I think they're a great addition. They have added so much more to the game, which I think is just fantastic. But you'll have to let me know how you're getting on in Wishblossom Ranch. Hopefully you find this video helpful. If you did, don't forget to give it a like. Feel free to subscribe. Make sure to check out Cupcake is Gaming and also Mr. Star's channel as well, because I do want to give credit to those for this hack. And yeah, I hope to see you all in the next one. Bye, guys. I want to say a huge thanks to our super top members, Angry Shroom, Spread Lake, and Caroline Rose. Thank you so much for going above and beyond for support on this channel. I really do appreciate it. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.